Your Excellency, as a member of the East African community, you obviously have views and your opinion on how things should go. What's your view and your ambition for the East African community?
Well, my views on the East African community builds on what already exists, really. I think the people of East Africa, this community as it exists now, 5 countries, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, and Rwanda, the people are, in fact, have been together, have been working together. They have relations cutting across borders beyond what people come to recognize or even realize. So by this, why would anybody not encourage that even to go beyond what it is? It wouldn't make sense if one failed to actually build on it and take it further to what benefits every country in the community, every community in the wider community of East African community, and so on and so forth. So this is what my thinking. Therefore, how it has been developing is, I think, impressive. In a sense, it's properly structured, and we are working towards certain targets. We've seen customs union in place and making good progress. We've seen the common market developing. People are talking about, having one currency, having a monetary union, and so on and so forth. It has its huge problems, but it's always good to be talking about how to address these problems than just close your eyes to these problems. And then later on, really, in a real sense, bringing together the whole community in a form of political federation. I think these are the ambitions, and there are huge obstacles on the way, there is no doubt. But that is no reason for people not sitting together to really talk about these issues, but looking at the big prize in terms of how the community would benefit by integrating more deeply and broadly as to should. So my views stem from that. We build on that. And for us as Rwanda, we feel we should be part of this, and we will do the best we can to make sure that the East African community becomes a reality, and we benefit, everybody else benefits, and we move on.
Your Excellency, in your statement yesterday, you did seem to speak about leaders that seem to be detached from their people. And there are observers who say what we witnessed in North Africa with the uprising in North Africa, and recently even in West Africa, with some even democratic governments, there seems to be a growing dissent against regimes in government, and critics say it's coming to East Africa. Why? Or my question should be, do you see a scenario where leaders do actually not listen and actually observe what's happening on the ground, and they are totally detached from their people?
Well, we have to avoid being detached from our people. And when I was speaking to this, I was really building on our own situation, and I was simply sending a message to our own people, our own leaders, as we are sitting here having a retreat, to be conscious about this. And that relates us very well to our own responsibilities, and probably reminds us that we have a responsibility, and here, as we are here for a purpose, and the purpose is we have to work with the people who have entrusted with us the kind of responsibility as we are holding today, and that must remain in our minds. So on a smaller scale of Rwanda and different levels of structures and systems, you can expand it beyond Rwanda and say, if people fail to represent, to work for the interests of the people they lead, this backfires. It may take time, but in the end there are consequences. And that's why those things are happening in the areas you are talking about. So it can happen here, it can happen anywhere else. It has happened already in a number of countries. So I brought it up to make sure that people are aware of it and are reminded of it, and we make sure that we stay the course in terms of working for our people. And really not just to avoid this happening, but it is what needs to be done. You don't work for your people just because you don't want them to turn against you. You work for your people, you work with your people because it's the right thing to do. It's what you ought to do. So that's why I always bring it up, in fact, many times. And for me, the purpose is to remind our leaders that let's go back to these rural areas and villages and remote parts of our country and get to understand what our people are going through and think with them how they can get out of that. And that's why we are here. That's why they've given us this trust.
Let's speak about your recent relations with Uganda that seem to be extremely good at the moment. What's driving this? What's the ambition about this relationship? It seems to have come at a time when no one expected it, least expected it.
Well, no, people should have expected it because that's what it was all along. So it's not that there's anything new happening. We're only going back to what things should have been in the first place. So I'm happy to say whatever issues there might have been that shouldn't have happened in the first place, I think we are getting back to where things should be. And it's our pleasure, it's our duty to make sure that we make sufficient effort and do what needs to be done to make sure that, again, it's an issue here of logic, simple logic. What does it benefit anyone that there will be quarrels, misunderstandings, and, instead of getting together and working together, and whatever differences there may be, there should always be differences that are positive, in a sense, of having different opinions, looking at things differently. But at the end of the day, these positive differences I'm talking about add up to actually give results that would not have been there if there hadn't been these kinds of different views. This is the way I see it. At the end of the day, we all work for a common goal. Whether it is within Rwanda, you manage things in a certain way that the different views that exist are all listened to, are brought together for the common good of the nation of Rwanda, and you move forward, not to break up Rwanda and create problems for it. So in the same way, if we look at relations between countries like Uganda and Rwanda, or later on, say, countries within the East African community, we have different backgrounds, we have different cultures, traditions, ways of looking at things, but at the end of it, can we harness the positives from all, the kinds of different entities for the common good of, say, whether it is in a bilateral sense to countries or in the wider context of a sub-region like the East African community. This is really how things should work. Well, sometimes things don't work the way I'm describing them or the way they should work, but that's where the effort should be, to make sure that things work in that direction.
Your Excellency, there is this view that the Western model of democracy normally does translate into economic growth and economic development. But again, there are those who describe yours as different, as an authoritarian democracy that is achieving economic growth, but question the mode of execution. What would you say to that?
Well, people would have different views about different things, and people would be entitled to those views. They are entitled to their views as I am entitled to my view. But if people are not to be simplistic, even the Western democracy that is being talked about, people should remember how it has evolved over such a long period of time. Just look a little bit in history, these Western countries. If you look at 100 years ago, where they were, what they were doing, what was happening, then you would really have a good answer for the question or for the current issues for Africa. So it's always work in progress. You know, countries, different processes always evolve and really have to evolve around what suits the people involved in that. In our own situation, and in fact, even whether Western or other types or forms of democracies that we are talking about here, it's all about people. It's all about their own expressions. It's about the struggle for them, for their freedoms, and to really be able to fully realize their potential, their opportunity, their different kinds of freedoms. So it's about people. So if the people of Rwanda, and in our case, we have our own history, we have our own cultures, traditions, values, and really every society has values. It's not that one value, one set of values of a certain nation should be superior to one set of values and of other people. It's not correct. I don't think it is correct. And that's why, in fact, it is always a necessity for people to work together. You appreciate me, I appreciate you, and we move along. So in our case, we've been doing what addresses the fundamental issues about our people. And as long as our people are involved in defining their direction, their path, and what allows them to be who they are and express themselves, we will do that, and that's what we've been doing. And so people talk about freedoms, about rights, and we don't disagree. That's what we should be doing or working towards, absolutely. And where is the difference, or where is the question? I don't understand, because as we were talking about earlier, does enabling our people to put food on the table, to get them out of poverty, to give them tools of communication when we are investing in broadband and everything, does it enhance democracy or does it undermine democracy? If we allow an environment where people freely elect their leaders, express themselves in any way, and in fact, they will come up and tell you this is how they feel, how does that undermine democracy? So what form of democracy is there that is without these things? So what we've been doing in Rwanda is working towards that. In fact, it is enabling people, it's empowering people to be able to come together to work towards this goal. So I have never seen any discrepancy. I've never seen anything in the opposite direction. Now, but in any society, including these developed democracies we are talking about over the West, you've seen what problems keep developing there. And these are problems originating from their own people expressing, saying, no, yeah, they are not happy about this, they are not happy about that, and so on and so forth. So which means in any situation, including Rwanda's, he'll always find issues to deal with. They'll always be there. Another 100 years, there will always be issues. People will agree, disagree, and in the end, as I was talking about, it's how you come finally together and keep moving on. You can't stop this happening. So at times we are at a loss to know what else Rwanda can do to not be misrepresented or misdefined in terms of what we are doing. But more so, and more importantly, we are comforted by the fact that we are with our people. Our people are the ones saying, we are happy with what we are doing. We are happy with what we get. We are making progress. What was lacking is being put in place. And this is something we can build on to get better. So this is how we move. This is what happens.
Your Excellency, you have been internationally proclaimed to be an excellent leader, at one point describing you as the new breed, the new generation, the new breed of leaders in Africa. What would be, and my question to you at this moment would be, if you leave office, and when you leave office, you've been quoted to have said that if you leave and this economic growth and the good things they speak about Rwanda retard or even regress, that you will feel your leadership will have failed. Have you set institutions to make sure that doesn't happen?
That is what constantly goes on. In fact, even beginning with this retreat we are having, this is a symbol of that effort, bringing people together so they think about the future beyond any of us, beyond me, beyond anybody else you see sitting in that room. There should be a future for this country. And as you rightly said, it's a question of when I leave office. I will leave office. You see, even if I wanted to stay longer than I'm expected to, finally it comes to a point where you leave office. But you don't leave office and you leave nothing behind. So for me and what we've been doing here in Rwanda, it's to make sure that there are things we leave behind that will outlive us. These are the institutions now. Now, how different institutions or how different things happen under one leader and another, this will be different because I am who I am. There is no another me. It's me, there is somebody else who will come. Whoever will come after me will be different from me. Or maybe we'll do things different, or maybe we'll do things better than I have done. So there will always be changes like this, either for the better, or somebody else might come after me and things may go wrong. But there is no way to foretell that or to even avoid it sometimes. But the only chance we stand of avoiding it is creating and strengthening these institutions you are talking about, so that they are able to temper the different behaviors of different individuals that come along, the good ones, the bad ones. So it's key. It's important. It's what we are trying to do. And I think with a degree of success, but you always remain concerned, worried, and wanting to prevent anything going wrong. But there is never 100% certainty that somebody will emerge and do different things, and I don't know. But the safest bet is to have institutions in place.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you. Thank you. Viewers, that wraps up our interview for this evening. You're watching a special edition on the sport here in Rwanda with His Excellency Paul Kagame. Thank you for watching.